we've talked about, of course, Philippians 2 and how everything that's given to Jesus, he's literally raised to the highest possible position you can imagine, given the name above every name, right? These are all temporal. And it's still to the Father's glory, not to his. So how could he be the Lord of glory in the ultimate sense, right? When literally being proclaimed as Lord and worshiped as Lord is to the glory of God the Father. That's the Lord of glory, right? The one to whose glory it all is. But let's take a look further, right? John 17, I think, is really incredible here in terms of its teaching, right? This whole glory thing. We talk about the glory of Isaiah, right? It says, to no one else will I give my own glory. Referring to the idols, of course. But even his own eternal glory, right? That actually can't be given. It's eternal and glory due to him as being the eternal God. He can give his glory in a temporal sense, like right here. John 17, right? Verse 5, so now, Father, glorify me alongside yourself with the glory I had alongside you before the world was. Right? Sam likes to substitute world for creation there. He gets lost in the sauce. Glorify me alongside yourself with the glory I had alongside you before the world was. Had, right? It's past tense, and he's now been made lower than the angels. And we know that the glory, right? The glory that John 12:41 and that Dr. White gets confused on with Isaiah 6, it uses those exact terms involving the Messiah's glory related to his feeble appearance. That's the kind of glory that they're talking about and that they're seeing there in John 12. And that he says, he see the glory he has, it's not that glory. He wants to get it back. He's talking to God here and saying, glorify me now with the glory I had. See, the Father has that glory. He's in heaven. He hasn't become a man. So Jesus is saying, glorify me with the glory I had, because you have it. And then he says in this same chapter, verse 22, I have given them the glory you have given me. So right there, that's just like, here's what I would do with Dr. White. I would say, well, Colossians, if he's paralleling Colossians 2:9 with 1 Corinthians 2:8, pristine faith, I would say, well, Colossians 2:9 is in the context of Colossians 1:19, where it says that God decided the fullness would be in him. He chose Eudakio. And then right after Colossians 2:9 and verse 10, it says, Christians are possessed of the same fullness. Is fullness full, Dr. White? Oh, okay, so there's no difference, right? Because fullness is full. Jesus has got the fullness, and we have the fullness, and the Father saw good for the fullness to be in him. Just like the glory was given to him, and then Jesus gave it to us. It's the exact same sequence of events showing the priority in terms of the glory, with one clearly being the Lord over all others, right? I mean, how else are we going to interpret that the Father is giving the Son glory, who then gives it to us, than that the Father is the ultimate Lord of glory, right? Jesus has been given the glory. That's true. So he is Lord of glory because he's been given it, just like he's the one responsible for our life now as well. He's been given that life, John 5:26. Everything the Son is doing is temporally his to do, not eternally like the Father. So there's no way that Jesus could be the ultimate Lord of glory if he has to be given glory by God and everything done to him as Lord is to the glory of the one who gave him the glory. And since he's given the glory and God chose to put his fullness in him, that we are then possessed of, that's how we are all one. Because we're all being given the things by the one God, which identify us as his servants, his sons. We're all doing the same thing, what the Father says, right? No one more so than Jesus. So how could we do anything less? That's how we're all one. Oh, and then look at even more so, right? This whole chapter, you talk about Lord of glory. Verse 24, Father, as to what you have given me. Okay, we know already that includes glory. I wish that where I am, they may also be with me, in order to behold my glory you have given me. Right there, pristine faith. That's it. This right here connects the glory with John 17:5. Glorify me with the glory I had with you before the world was. Right here in verse 24, he's saying he wants us to behold the glory he's been given. And that is not glory he's only given as a man, proven right here. Behold my glory you've given me, because you loved me before the founding of the world. I wish that where I am, they may also be with me. He's not talking about on earth, is he, right there, pristine faith? Because they are with him, right? They're literally here, I believe, in the Garden of Gethsemane with him. He says, I wish that where I am, they may also be with me. He's talking about this, wanting to be back with the Father. Glorify me alongside yourself with the glory I had alongside you before the world was. I want that glory again. That's what he's saying right here. And then in verse 24, he says, I want them to see the glory you gave me, that where I am, they may also be, right? Just like John 14. I'm going away and prepare a place for you, that where I am, you may also be. So he's clearly talking about his heavenly glory. He wants us to behold that glory. And that is the exact glory he was given. Behold the glory you have given me. Right there. It's not the glory on earth that he wants us to behold. We're already seeing that glory. That's the glory he's given us. He's also talking about the glory he had alongside the Father before the world was. And he wants them to be where he is to behold that glory, which right there in this part of verse 24, I'm highlighting. Let's go to the Bible Hub. He says that glory that he was given before the world was, or that he had before the world was with the Father, that he wants them to behold when he's there with the Father. He was given that glory. So it's not even just the glory on earth, spoken about in Isaiah 53 and John 12, as the Messiah, the one whose appearance is not like they had expected. No, he's talking about that because that's the glory he gave them. He's also talking about, he desires that where I am, right? It's a desire he has. Something wants to happen, like John 17:5. Yes, he uses the present because he's expressing his present desire to be back with the Father, experiencing the glory that he had. And when he's there again, because he had it, he doesn't have it now, he's not there. When he has it again, just like in John 14, where I am, we'll go to it, they also may be with me, that they may behold glory, that you gave me. Game over, lights out. No one is even bothering to stay in the parking lot because it's pathetic, right? I mean, this is it. I probably didn't make as much out of this as I should have in that video. I focused probably more on the earlier verses, him being given the glory that he also gave them while he was on earth. But the connection with verse 5 and 24 makes it clear he's talking about wanting to be back with the Father before the world was created and experience that glory that he no longer has. He says, I had, past tense. And then when he's there, he wants them to be with him as well, to behold that glory in heaven with the Father that he was given. That is not the eternal Lord of glory, Dr. White. No, it couldn't be any more temporal and dependent upon the one who is the real Lord of glory, the one who gives glory to others and never has to have it given to him. Now, real quickly, though, just to show how this present tense works with respect to Jesus' desire for future events to take place, look at John 14. Not let be troubled you the heart. Believe in God, also believe in me. Distinction right there, couldn't be clearer. No Trinity. In the house of my Father, many mansions there are. If now not what I have told you, that I go to prepare a place to you. See right here, Trinitarians, he isn't there yet, right? He's going to prepare a place for them, right? He talks about what he's going to do, just like we read in John 17. He wants to have that glory again, the glory I had. I want them to see that glory. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I am coming again and will receive you to myself, that where I am, present tense, exactly like we read in John 17, where he's talking in verse 24 to the Father about wanting to go back to be alongside him with the glory he had before the world was, so they can behold his glory. He was given. He was given it before the world was, everybody, not just on earth, not just after he became a man. He says so explicitly. John 17:5-24. And the present tense that he uses in John 17:24, while he's talking to the Father about him wanting them to be with him in heaven, alongside him to see this glory that he was given. It's the exact same terms he uses in John 14 when he talks about wanting to go back to heaven to prepare a place that where he is, they will be also. So don't let Trinitarians confuse you about the present tense and try to make it seem like, oh, see, he's also simultaneously in heaven while he's on earth. No, he's lower than the angels, which means he's only on earth. Otherwise, he'd be higher than the angels. And he uses the same expression in tense, verb tense in John 14, even though he's not in heaven, preparing a place yet. No, he's talking about future things, using the present tense. That's how the Bible speaks. You guys blow it all the time, not just here, but John 8:58. Different context, same problem. I think that's incredible, right? I think this John 17:24, actually, let me bring up NDT real quick. This John 17:24, together with verse 5, proves that his heavenly glory is temporal. That's basically saying you were created, right? If you were given glory in heaven alongside the Father, you're not eternal. No, you were given glory when you're made, just like the glory we see that wisdom was made with and that belongs to an only begotten God who's from the Father, John 1:18, John 1:14-18. It's the same thing, all the same thing, different words teaching the same thing. Let's see, what else? Is there anything else than verse 24? Okay, so that's the glory references in verse 24. Oh, and I'd use this one, pristine faith. Tell Dr. White, not only is Jesus made Lord, Acts 2:36, Philippians 2, and the glory he's given both on earth and before the world was made alongside the Father, according to John 17. Not only does that prove he's not the Lord, like eternal Lord Yahweh of glory, but the one who gave him the glory is. Hey, but I would tell him this, pristine faith. Did you know that there's the God of glory? Yeah. So Jesus is the Lord of glory because he's been made Lord to the glory of God the Father, the one who gave him the glory, both before the world was and on earth. But he's not the God of glory, right? Acts 7:2. We'll end with this. So I would lay all that down on Dr. White, show him how he's not interpreting the term Lord from 1 Corinthians 2:8 properly, in the temporal limited sense in which Jesus is made Lord. And he's not interpreting glory, the glory of which the Lord is Lord in that text, according to the temporal choice by the Father to give it and the fullness to the Son, both in heaven before the world was and on earth, which he then gives to us. So clearly not talking about the same glory that he won't give to anyone else, or at least to the idols in Isaiah. But Acts 7, was that Acts 7 too? I think it was. Yeah, the God of glory appeared to the father of us, Abraham. And this Acts 2, right, goes on to talk about how he appeared to him through angels. Ha ha! The God of glory, right? So Jesus is the Lord of glory, one Lord Jesus Christ, made Lord to the glory of God the Father. And the Father is the God of glory, Dr. White. He gives the Son the glory. No one gives him glory. Everything's done to his glory. One God the Father. So, hopefully that helps.